Hey, I'm Olivia,
And hey, I'm Dad.
and you're listening to Soarin' Around WDW. Hey, flight crew, thanks for taking off with me this week over to Disney World. I am without a co pilot today, not so safe, I know, but I also waited a week to record this episode, even though I had my notes up and ready the moment that D23 ended. However, I wanted to give myself some time to digest and also some time to get your opinions over on the gram to see what everyone is thinking and feeling about some of these announcements that have been made in the last few days. I also wanted to see if they dropped more news post D23, more on that later. However, this is an episode dedicated to the latest Disney news, including but not limited to the announcements, or lack thereof, at D23, which took place over Labor Day weekend in Orlando at the Coronado Springs Resort. So first things first, let's get into the pre-D23 news because, as y'all know, I did a news update on the first part of our Walt World's Fair series 2 weeks ago, since they announced a ton of stuff pre-D23, which surprised a lot of people, myself included. But then, as soon as I hit record and posted the episode, they just kept dropping news, which is a podcaster and creator's constant battle. So first things first, I mentioned this first update in one of my stories right after it was announced, but wanted to get into it a little bit more with you guys. Ratatouille, the adventure at Disneyland Paris, is permanently switching to a 2D format when it reopens from refurbishment in spring 2026. Now, I saw this and immediately thought, thank God, because if you have been a listener for a minute, you guys know that I literally cannot stand 3D rides because of motion sickness mostly. The concept is super cool, and I wish that it really didn't bother me like it does. Truly, I do. But it does bother me, and oftentimes it ruins me for the rest of the day. I end up doing these 3D plus motion attractions without the 3D glasses or closing my eyes entirely, looking at you, Flight of Passage, and it totally ruins the experience. Now, rides like Flight of Passage couldn't really exist in the same way that they are today without 3D, so I get it. I appreciate it for what it is. I'm glad that it's super cool. Most people love it. However, I was pumped for this news about the Ratatouille attraction over in Paris. I'm not gonna lie, I saw it and truly thought people are gonna be upset and hate this and not like it, and I might be one of the only people who is actually excited about this. The initial comments I read said it was going to ruin the attraction, that it wouldn't be as good, but then I posted a poll onto my stories asking what people preferred for this particular attraction, and almost everyone said 2D. I was shocked. You guys are truly my people, so I should not have been that shocked, but my guess is that they are testing the waters by changing the Disneyland Paris version of this attraction, and if it bodes well with the audience, then they will also bring this change over to Epcot, which I will not be mad at all about. I think they'll add some enhancements to the attraction that for those of you who love the 3D aspect, you won't really miss the 3D. They'll make it an awesome ride. So just something to consider and something that was announced pre-D23. The Boneyard in Animal Kingdom is officially closed, and we currently have no further updates from Disney as to the timeline for the Tropical Americas section of the park. Really, just that it will be open in 2027. They did, however, drop the news post D23, of course, that Dinosaur will be closing February 2nd, and the last day to ride will be February 1st, 2026. No other timeline information otherwise was given at D23 or in any other capacity. So still waiting for a lot of updates about this. I know I just saw something on WDW News today recently about the concept art being posted up on the construction walls, which is cool to kind of give you a little visual of what's going on, especially for folks who aren't as down and into the Disney news as people like myself or most likely y'all are. The Food and Wine Festival has also kicked off, but I heard from our friend over on Instagram, Adriana, who said that there have been a ton of issues, including the years-long complaint about lack of tables. When they do have tables, there are those high top standing tables usually, and some booths only really have 2 to 3 tables nearby with thousands of guests. This means people are constantly eating off of trash cans, and if you are there with kids, you have to keep walking and find a quick service place to sit and eat with them. The festival will be running until November 22nd, and I have to say, I haven't really heard the best things about this festival, especially the last couple of years, and haven't attended Epcot at this time in years, mostly because I just love the Flower and Garden Festival and Festival of the Arts way more. And I also really like the food options at those festivals a lot. So am I crazy? I don't know. Are y'all a, food and wine stan? Let me know. But we will just have to do a festivals episode soon and kind of put up opinions and polls about this, because it is interesting to hear who likes what more. And if you do love food and wine, do you feel like it's been great the last few years, okay, or not as good as it used to be? So definitely let me know in the comments or over on Instagram. So going back to who sent that to us, thank you, Adrienne, for letting us know. Her handle is at adrian.spina, S-P-I-N-A, on Instagram, and we really appreciate when y'all chime in, and we'd love to shout your page out. So thanks again for giving us that. Beacon Barrel opened last week, and people are loving it. Some friends of the pod got to go enjoy it, and they said it was super cool. I did read that they are now limiting reservations to parties of 8 or less. Before September 8th, you could select up to 20 people in a party, but the largest single table in the lounge only seats 8. Oga's lets you select 20 people, as does Geo82. So why are they doing this? Well, Oga's and Geo lets you know you might have trouble finding a seat altogether if you select a group of more than 8. So I'm not sure if this is just a crowd control thing for Beacon Barrel, or if they had a lot of complaints than they did at these other 2 lounges, or if the lounge is just smaller. I have not been in the physical space myself. Or if it's just like a seating thing, who knows? I'm not really exactly sure. But I do hope to get to check this out the next time we are over in Magic Kingdom. We aren't really big drinkers per se, except for those Mexico margaritas. I literally dream about those. But I would even go and order a drink truly just to see the atmosphere and experience the place. The food is extremely limited on this menu. There's only about 4 different items, and some of them are like, comes with different dips or whatever. But they're not really things that I would eat either. I don't know. I might feel adventurous, but I know my kids wouldn't. So it might have to be on a trip where my kids aren't present, or something Maddie and I do while the kids are doing something else with, family or something. I'm not sure. So now to get into D23. Let me tell you right now, if I had bought tickets to D23 and had planned to go and made all these, plans to be there, to hear everything that they were going to talk about, and then Disney dropped all of this stuff the weeks prior to the event, I would have been annoyed. I mean, people who went knew that there was not going to be a parks panel like there had been at the Anaheim D23 event in 2024. And typically the destination D23s don't get a lot of announcements. So these people weren't expecting a ton of park news, but to be honest, it would have turned me off a bit. A lot of people in the Disney creator and influencer worlds had speculated that even though there wasn't the parks panel, there would still be pieces of the parks sprinkled into the panels that were already on the schedule. The big highlight panels that were present this year, in which people had thought might have parks news or content mixed within them, included things like Villains, Disney Around the Globe with different countries like France, India, China, and Japan, as well as a fun little stay tuned, you're watching Disney Channel. So the first major, quote unquote, and I'm using that word very lightly here given the lack of actual major news, was the movie Hexed that is coming to theaters in fall 2026. The plot that has been released is pretty limited, but it states that Hexed is Walt Disney Animation Studios' fall 2026 film and is focused on an awkward teenage boy and his type A mom discover what makes him unusual. It might just be magical powers that will turn their lives and a secret world of magic upside down. I am so excited about this. Halloween is my absolute favorite time of year. So I have high hopes that this will be another cute and little spooky family-friendly film that we will love and most likely all go to see together in the theaters. The rest of the movie lineup was also shown for the upcoming years and was quote-unquote announced like very loosely. Hoppers is a movie coming in March 2026. Toy Story 5 has a release date of June 19th, 2026. Moana, the live action film, is coming July 10th, 2026. Gato, June 18th, 2027. Frozen 3, November 24th, 2027. Incredibles 3, sometime in 2028. And Coco, sometime in 2029. So a very long and, again, like, years out list of what they have announced, what is to come. Some things I'm excited about. Some things I'm like, why? I don't know. A lot of, obviously, remakes, sequels, things like that in there. We'll see how all this turns out. But Hexed is one that I am very excited about and had not really heard much about prior. So I am very much looking forward to seeing that next fall in the theaters. The next announcement that had some weight to it was the overlay that they plan to do for the release of the new Tron film on the Tron attraction. The new Tron film is called Tron Ares. And I thought that this was a super cool and relatively inexpensive way to, number one, promote the new movie, but also, number two, give the attraction a fun little overlay. It also really shows us some potential for maybe some future holiday overlays to come. Me knowing nothing about Tron really is that I would love to see like black and orange for Halloween or green and red for Christmas, but not sure how other people would feel about this. People are obviously laughing at me right now saying, no, Olivia, the red is the villain overlay and would be like the Halloween overlay or like fall overlay, whatever. Guys, I don't know. I'm not super into these movies. Maddie likes them. I'm not that into them. I think the ride is super cool, but excited about the opportunity with the changing of the lights and like what all they could do with this attraction as far as overlays go. So that'll be fun. Then came a big one. They announced another Walt animatronic coming to the Carousel of Progress. This was kind of hilarious because if you listened to part 2 of our Walt's World Fair series last week, you know that Dad and I talked about the rumors with Carousel of Progress changing. And I said I didn't know if it would ever change, but likely wouldn't go anywhere because it is such a classic. Well, clearly I was wrong. We recorded that episode pre-D23 and I wasn't going back and editing that part out or doing a little news insert. I just did not have time for that. So here we are with the news update. If you have seen Carousel of Progress, you know that the very first scene when you walk in is just the curtain with the logo. So it seems like that is going to be where they'll be placing the lifelike Walt, where he will talk about the future of Tomorrowland, and there's cool little like maps that they have and like different nostalgic pieces, memorabilia that they'll be placing that make it look like things that he really, had and talked about on either the Wonderful World of Disney or when he was doing planning for the World's Fair. So it looks like the audience overall is a little bit split on how they feel about this one. Half of the folks think they shouldn't touch this beloved attraction. The other half think that it will be great. I am in the great camp, and even though the Walt animatronic in Disneyland seemed a little subpar, I hate to say that word, but it did. I don't know. I haven't seen it in person. So anyway, I think that they will really get into this one and get it right, and will fix that one eventually. I also still think that the actual animatronic concept with Walt is super cool, and the way that they make him feel super lifelike is amazing. It won't be a carbon copy of the show that's in Disneyland is what it seems, which is great. We don't need the same thing on both coasts. But now I am sure that they came up with this pre-backlash to the Disneyland version. So I really do think they will take their time and get it right. I could be wrong, but I think they will really consider that and consider the feedback post the release of the attraction on Disneyland's 70th and kind of make sure that everything looks good and is, up to par by the time they release it. I also, again, have not personally seen the Disneyland show yet. It was still under construction when we went in June for the 70th celebration, so I still want to see it with my own eyes, but the photos don't look great, so we will see. Another selfish reason that I'm glad for this change is that it means this attraction will go down for refurbishment, likely in the next year, but we have no date officially. Why does that matter? Why do I want it to go down in the next year? Well, if it did happen in 2026, that will eliminate another very long attraction time for the Every Ride Challenge run, which Regan and I are already planning on when we are going to do this next year. So when I was talking to Regan about the Disneyland Walt animatronic, he told me there had been rumors about it going in Carousel of Progress. So this wasn't totally out there shocking news, at least for me. I had heard, him talk about this for a few weeks now, even maybe a couple of months, whenever they first announced the Disneyland Walt animatronic. So Disney stated that More details about the Carousel of Progress update are coming in the future, including news about what John, Sarah, and the rest of the family are up to. Now, could this mean that we're getting other updates or changes to this attraction, particularly the ending scene? Time will tell what happens and when we'll actually get a timeline, but it's funny, we literally just talked about this last week and I was like, they're not going to make any changes. If they did, maybe just the end. I don't know. So we'll see. I hope they don't change it too much. Obviously, people would really, really lose it if they change it too much. But when I put a poll up about this attraction on Instagram, 83% of you guys said you were excited. 8% said no, just no, like they don't want it. And 8% said still processing their feelings. So majority of my Instagram followers, and obviously y'all as listeners, were pretty excited about this. So I'm excited too. I think having a change in the beginning of the show is not a bad thing. I think it will be cool to have our own Walt animatronic. I just hope that they take their time and do it right. But we'll see. The villains panel really ended up being a pretty big disappointment, in my opinion. And again, this is as someone who didn't attend live and only did rewatch of panels, but the villains panel only really brought some cool photos from faraway places that Imagineers went to in order to bring some inspiration back to build this land. Dr. Facilier will be on the Disney Destiny, and Disney Hong Kong is getting a new Halloween or spooky season villains takeover thing at their park. Disney has announced the new Halloween time event at Hong Kong Disneyland will be called Uninvited A Villains Takeover Party, and it will include the villains taking over Main Street USA for a limited time. It was described by Disney as the biggest villains party of all time, and the event is kind of like cavalcade, street party, musicals, spectacular kind of a thing. Maleficent was accidentally left off the invitation list, so she leads the night's takeover. And this is supposed to include appearances from both the Disney villains and their underlings or like sidekicks. The art reveals look at some of the characters that include Oogie Boogie, Gaston, the Evil Queen, Captain Hook, Lady Tremaine, and more starting in mid-September. So that was really like the most they gave of this villains panel. And so it was like, was really hoping for more here. Was really hoping for some attraction names, some attraction restaurant names, an idea about, exactly what we're going to be getting. Maybe not exactly, but like timeline, a little more timeline, some more concept art, something. But they really did not give us much. Just like some things that inspired it from their time overseas, which was cool. And it's like, yeah, that looks cool, but I don't know. I was really hoping for more here. But again, they promised us nothing about the parks. That was not the point. Just seems odd. Anyway, moving on. World of Frozen will be open in Disneyland Paris in spring 2026. This looks so cool, and I cannot wait to be able to go here someday. We do have Paris on the brain. Nothing has been booked or anything yet, but hoping sometime in the next year or two that we will make it over there. My girls are Frozen obsessed and would absolutely love going to this world. It is giving the park a much needed facelift and will really help draw people over to that park, which has been historically called the half-day park by many. This will also mark the transition of this park over to its new name, Disney Adventure Park, from Walt Disney Studios Park. The only thing that makes me nervous about the name change is I truly love the name for this park, but are they going to do this to Hollywood Studios? Are they going to get rid of the studios in the name? Because it really is no longer a studio-based park. They are bringing back the animation studio piece, which makes me happy. And maybe that will buy us some, real estate to say it's still a studios park, even though it really isn't anymore. But I really don't want them to change the name. I know it doesn't fully fit, but I love that park. It's my favorite. And I don't want to see a major change, like a name change. We already did that with MGM. It took me forever to get used to saying Hollywood Studios instead of MGM. And I still sometimes call it MGM because, like, in my heart, that's what it is. I get it. It doesn't fully fit, but I really, really, really hope they don't change Hollywood Studios' name like they are over at Disney Studios Park in Paris. So I don't know. We'll see. Again, Paris has been on the brain. I've been watching 5 bajillion videos about this park. We might have an opportunity to get over there in the next year or two, kind of trying to figure some stuff out. Obviously, as soon as anything's booked, I will let y'all know, but we'll see. So what do you guys think about this? Do you think this could mean a potential for the Hollywood Studios name to change in the future? Or do you think the animation studios piece coming back might save us from that? Let me know. I'd be curious to know your thoughts. Another drop was a new Leslie Iwerks documentary on Disneyland titled Disneyland Handcrafted. It will be coming to Disney Plus this winter, and I absolutely cannot wait. Whenever I'm not in the parks, I live vicariously through things like these documentaries, ride POVs, YouTube content, and everyone's stories over on Instagram who are at the park. So a new documentary is like awesome to me. I know some people might think that's super nerdy, but I don't know. You're here listening to this Disney podcast, so you probably don't think that. But super excited. Leslie Iwerks has been an amazing Disney history queen and loved the Imagineering story documentary. I just think it's such a great, representation of Disney history, and it's super fun. So much stuff to learn. So I can't wait to see that one. I will be putting it on my watch list ASAP. And finally, the biggest announcement, in my opinion, was the announcement about Cinderella Castle getting a reverse makeover back to more of her OG colors. This was a new news piece that hit, and Regan instantly texted me and said, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, there's no way." With the photo saying she's coming back, I could cry, official news. This text thread clearly and truly encompasses how we both feel about this change. We loved OG Cindy. If you follow us on Instagram, for Reeg's birthday, I literally posted, we love him more than the OG Cinderella Castle, and that's a lot because we truly loved the original castle. And why? Why do we care about this? Why is this such a big deal? Personally, a piece of it is truly nostalgia, but also the new colors made me feel like it was just too close to Sleeping Beauty Castle at Disneyland. And the Cinderella vibes are the blue dress. I know there's pink in the movie and the dress she's sewing and pink, whatever. But you think Cinderella, you think that classic blue. So I could not be more excited about this change. Again, no timeline was given as of the time of recording this episode. I swear I'm going to literally stop recording this and they're going to drop the timeline for this. But anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing when this will happen. I don't love that the castle is going to have to be covered up, and curious to see how that all goes. And I'm very curious to see how they're going to do Happily Ever After if the castle is being refurbed again, but that is a future problem. Present me is thrilled about the news. I also popped a poll up about this on Instagram to see how you guys felt about this news, and people were actually more split on this one, with some people saying they wish they would just pick a color scheme and stick to it, which I do agree. I hope they don't change it again. I hope that they realize people really miss the original colors and they keep this the classic gem that it is. Having different things for different celebrations is one thing, but they don't need to paint it. Don't paint it. Leave the colors as they are. Add embellishments. I mean, maybe don't go crazy like the 25th anniversary where it looked like an actual cake with blow up stuff. That was a little wild, but you can add embellishments without making it different colors. I don't know. It just isn't necessary to me. So I agree. I really hope they don't change it again. So we'll see. The Insta poll results showed that 76% of y'all loved the OG colors and you were excited. 5% said, I will miss the pink. And about 20% said they just want them to pick the color and stick to it. So I get it. I really do. Hoping that this will be truly the last major change that we see to the castle as far as the paint colors at Disney World. But time will tell. So the next D23 will be back in Anaheim at the Honda Center, August 14th through 16th, 2026. I wish that we could attend. Someday, Regan and I will get there, but it is not going to happen next year. It's just not going to happen. We already have a number of Disney trips on the docket, booked and coming up. So maybe 2028, if it's back in that location, we'll be able to swing it. But for now, we just have to kind of wait, and we'll be excited to watch our friends who are going. We know a lot of y'all have already posted that you have got your hotels booked, getting ready to get tickets and all that stuff. And so we will be living vicariously through you and your Instagram stories and whatever else you decide to post, your content pre and post, all that kind of stuff. So how do you guys feel about this year's D23? Did it fall short of the expectations of what you thought it might be? Were you expecting little because of the lack of the parks panel and that it was a destination D23? Or were you sad that they didn't really provide as much as you might have thought? Let me know in the comments what you think. And let me know if you plan to attend the 2026 D23 event. I would love to hear. If you were present at the D23 event in Orlando, which I know many of you were, let me know what you thought. Again, were you disappointed? Were you excited? All the above. I mean, I guess just being there would be so exciting, and like Jodie Benson was there. I mean, all these cool things, right? Like there's a lot of cool things that happened, but definitely looking forward to what happens next year and hoping by then we'll have a lot more gusto of like what's going on. So we'll see. But this is a kind of a short episode, just kind of getting into the news, and wanted to wrap up some recap. We do have some fun stuff coming up here in the next few weeks. Next week, we will be bringing you guys our Nostalgic Nights first episode. The Nostalgic Nights series is going to be where I pick a movie that I loved and watch it with somebody for their first time, usually, and they let me know what they think of it. Did it hold up, I guess, for me? Do they love it as much as I thought they would? Or is it cringy? What do they think? So we'll be starting that series next week. And then after that, we're going to be getting into the queue review, which is our best and worst queues at Walt Disney World, before we have a guest star. Our special guest star will be coming up, and I'm excited to announce who that is here in the coming weeks. I've already recorded with them, and I'm working on editing it now, and it was such a fun episode. So thanks, guys, for tuning in as always and listening to me rant on this solo flight today. I really appreciate that. And I hope that you guys have enjoyed the content. Please let me know what you want to hear more of, less of, all the things. And if you want a shout out over on the podcast or on Instagram, please send me a DM. I'd love to highlight your page, whether it's a YouTube page, whether you have an Instagram, whether you're a travel agent, whatever. Would love to highlight you guys. So please let me know and we will shout you out. Another way to get a shout out is by leaving a review for us on Apple Podcasts. We would love to shout out those reviews too. And if you're listening on Spotify, again, the 5-star button is there. There's also a place to leave comments, and I do try to post our Would You Rather polls on the podcast too. So before we officially wrap up, I do want to do a Would You Rather this week because you guys have been super into that. So hold on tight. Let's get that out. So since Adrienne already was shouted out in this podcast, I'm going to go ahead and give you her Would You Rather question. So this is one that we kind of talked about a little bit earlier in the episode, and something that she brought up when she gave us some, content to feature for the news. It is, would you rather go to the Food and Wine Festival at Epcot, or the Flower and Garden Festival, or the Festival of the Arts? So which one would you rather attend? This is an interesting question. So my favorite festival is the Flower and Garden Festival. I also love Festival of the Arts. So if I had to choose, I'm probably going to go with the Flower and Garden, only because it's just so beautiful, and I love to see whatever they choose to highlight at the front of the park each year. I know they do a lot of similar topiary sculpture things around Epcot each year, but I do really think that one takes the cake for me, and that's the one that I'd want to go back to most. Festival of the Arts is also super cool. I love to see all the featured artists. I just don't have the money to buy all the art, but it is really cool to walk around and look at. And they actually have good food at both of these festivals too. So it's not going to be food and wine for me. But what would it be for you guys? Would love to hear. I'll definitely get Dad's opinion too. And again, thank you guys so much for participating in these polls and the Instagram post for this. You guys have really been loving these questions, which has been so fun. And if you want to submit your own Would You Rather question and be featured as a shout out on the podcast, please leave a comment or send me a DM and let me know what question you'd like me to ask, and I will shout you out if you want. If not, it can be anonymous, but love to hear the crazy outlandish ones. We've had quite a few, so this was a good little break of a more normal question, but the crazy ones are super fun to kind of go through. But again, thanks so much for listening, and we will see y'all next week. Hey, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to give us a follow on Instagram at SoarinAroundWDW Pod, where we share fun reels, throwback photos, and dive into our old versus new debates. If you're listening on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. And for our Spotify listeners, a follow and a 5-star review would mean the world. If you're listening on Apple, hit that 5-star button and leave us a written review as well. Thanks again for joining us. See you next time.